In 2004, my kid's dad got out of jail.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
I know what happens next.
I think I know what happens.
And I started using. Not right away, because I was good. Right, I was fine. But then I did start using, and I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to tell any of my friends, because I was ashamed. And so I would, only tell them enough. But I wanted to have him in my life, and I wanted to have them in my life. But I wasn't ready to, be completely honest. And that was my revolving door. That was my pattern, was that I was so stuck on building this family with somebody that I couldn't build a family with, that my life would crumble every time. So 2004, he got out. Shortly after that, I started using, lost my kids, got my kids. It was just this, or I tried to hide it for a long time. And we moved, this chaos was just knee deep in our lives. And there was abuse, and there was, never really any CPS, because then I had moved away from my mom, and my mom was like, no, I'm not raising your kids anymore. And I was able to shut that door for a little while, because she didn't know how to deal with it. And so then she went to different types of meetings to figure out that she was an enabler. And she still wanted to enable, but she didn't know at this time how much she could, So he went back to jail, 2000, I don't remember, doesn't matter. I had another baby. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm pretty sure he went back to jail, got bailed out, took my kids, found out I was pregnant in 2006, and I was like, okay, I'm better. And I'm like, I'm going to not use. So I didn't use, but I was still there, because what's the old saying?
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are, there
you are.
There you are. Wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So literally that was my life, because I couldn't run from me. I couldn't run from what was going on in my life. But I wanted to, and I wanted to put myself on this pedestal. Like, you are just going to go back to jail again. It is all your fault. I'm going to put myself on this pedestal, when really the chaos of our lives was all inclusive. So I was no better than him or them or anybody, even though I wanted to put myself on that pedestal, because that's how I was raised. Because I can just portray myself as this person, right? So I had this daughter. I promised her that I would never do what I did to her brothers when she was laying in my arms, and she was the most precious, beautiful thing in the whole wide world. I never promise. You can never promise things like that, right?
Oh.
And this, my life had changed, because now I'm a mother of 3, and I have my beautiful baby girl, and I just wanted a little girl, and my life was going to change. And so their dad was still looking at time. So he was out on bail, but he was looking at 89 months. And I was like, okay, I can do this, right? So we were together, and we moved out to Freeport, and my life was okay, and and I was drinking, and I was smoking weed, and I was maintaining my life, okay? I was maintaining that. I was doing okay, while inside there was this big black hole, right? And I wanted something different, but I didn't know if I wanted recovery, or if I wanted to give up everything I had to find recovery, or if I just wanted to maintain this, because I had went back so many times that I didn't want to admit one more time that I was a screw up, right. and that I didn't know everything.
Yeah, that shame and guilt is
right?
Killer.
Right.
I'm not going to...
So I maintained that for a long time. 2006, my daughter was born. 2007, he went back to prison. I maintained it till 2009, and I had a really good job. I was an executive housekeeper of the Hampton Inn and Suites. I was maintaining my house. I lived in my own house in New Munich, my kids. But this is the kicker. I might have been maintaining it on the outside, but on the inside I was a couch mom. And I was a mean mom, and I was abusive. And listen, Jaden and Skylar would say something out of pocket, and they would get whacked. Or I would chase them up the stairs with a belt, or I would cuss at them, or whatever the case may be. Like, that was how I parented, because I didn't know how, I didn't want any other skills. It wasn't that I didn't know how. I didn't want any other skills. Okay? Because at the time, I'm like, well, my mom's a great mom. She never didn't do any of these things, but I'm going to figure out how to do it my way because I'm going to be a better mom. Well, how do you do that? By swearing at your kids. You know, like, and like my kids today, like they'll cock off to me or say something stupid, and Jaden and Skylar are like, what are you gonna do, Mom? Like, you just gonna let him talk to you that way?
I would have got dropped.
And that's what Jaden will be like. Listen, do you want to know what happened to me if I would have talked to my mom like that? You know, and they're all like, what?
Just hits.
She just backhands you, you know. But that's not who I am today. You know.
Let's say that's
just not. I mean, I have other skills, other parenting skills. So, 2009, I had this great job, and I started dating this man that I had known since high school, who I thought was normal. Or not normal. Like, normal, like, okay, I drink. You know, I mean, that's normal, right? So I had got him a hotel room at my hotel, and I went upstairs, and he was like, he pulled out a bubble, and literally my life from there on, like, and I hadn't used meth for a really long time, from like 2006 to 2009.
So you were doing pretty good.
I mean, I was doing okay. I wasn't, definitely not in recovery, but I was maintaining something because I thought that that's what you did, because I just wanted to be normal.
Yeah.
Right.
So normal people just drink occasionally, and then they don't black out, and you know,
Right.
or they don't miss work because they got too drunk the night before and couldn't get up, or you know, that's what I thought was normal, and that's literally how I lived my life for them 3 years. And or I would sleep in and let my kids ransack my house, and then get up and yell at them because they made a mess in the kitchen because they were hungry.
Right.
Because that's what I thought you did. Right? And I honestly thought that what I was doing was okay. I look at it now and I'm like, no!
Right.
No and no! Like, that's not how you parent your kids. And that's not how you are to yourself.
Yeah.
You know? So...
You walk in and they're...
Yeah.
And just that fast. Bam.
Yeah, literally, he pulled it out and I was like, oh, no, I'm going to smoke with you. And he's like, but you haven't used it. I'm like, I don't care. You ain't gonna bring it in my life.
This.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think it was months. I lost my job, a good job. I was living with my mom only because I had taken this job in St. Cloud, and I was living in New Munich, and I was commuting, and Jaden's mental health wasn't doing very good, and I just really needed some help. Not because I was like, hey, Mom, I need you. It was more like my mom was like, hey, I'll help you. But even though I really did need my mom. But I think sometimes that is one of them things where I know my mom will take care of my kids, so then I can go out and party.
Right.
Okay. So I kind of tried to work that for a while, but it wasn't very long, a few months. And my mom was like, nope, we're not playing this game again. I know what you got going on.
She was on
you got to get out. You know, she was on to me. You got to get out. And they called social services, and they did all these things. And I like skirted the situation. I like tried to abandon ship pretty much. Like, I'm going to take my kids and they're not going to find me because I'm going to move from here to here to here to here, not thinking what it was going to do to my kids' mental health. And I think about that sometimes, and like every now and again, like I'll look at Jaden and Skylar and Mary Beth, and I'll be like, wow, like you really turned out okay. Because Jaden literally was like the man of the house, and he felt like he had to have that role because his mom was a mess. And so he tried to take care of everything because Mom wasn't going to step up. And of course at 11, 10, it wasn't his role. And so when things really fell apart, he literally thought it was his fault. And there were things that happened that, like, I look back and I'm like, God damn, Angie, like, what were you thinking? But my life literally fell apart that quickly. I started using, I lost my job. My kids got separated. I tried to maintain holding on to the baby, which was Mary Beth, because she didn't know what was going on, but it was mentally affecting her. But she didn't know. Like, Jaden and Skylar already knew. Like, there she goes again.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we
Off
go
to
again.
grandma's.
Right, and so that roller coaster. So like I sometimes think of Skylar now, and like he's got this festering ball inside of him because he's waiting for the next shoe to drop. He's waiting for that ball to drop where his dad goes back to prison or something happens in his life because that was that roller coaster of events that happened in his life so often that was normal. And so I had to separate my kids. By the grace of God, I literally had amazing people in my life that were like, here, I'll take them. So my oldest son went with my mom because kind of a side story, Jaden would go through some things and he would cry for his mom, and Rayleigh would call me and be like, he just wants his mom. And I'd be like, are you sure he wants me? Are you sure he doesn't want my mom? Because I was never really a mom to him. And she's like, no, he wants you. And I'd be like, I don't understand. And so I've been able to fill that role since then, if that's who he really wants, like there's got to be a reason, and I can fill that role, So Jaden went with my mom. My oldest, Skylar, went with my oldest brother, and it was really weird when that whole situation went down because I went to drop him off, and I asked Skylar, I said, why don't you pack a bag? And he's like, where am I going this time? And I was like, you're going to my brother's. Oh, I'm going to Uncle Jeremy's. Yep, you're going to Uncle Jeremy's. And he's like, all right, well, what am I packing? And I was like, I don't know, just pack a bag. And I got to my brother's, and he was like, how long am I going to keep, how long this time, Angie? Or how long am I going to keep him? I was like, I don't know. He's like, do I go buy him a bed? Do I buy a bigger vehicle? Because he had 3 kids already, Do I buy a bigger vehicle? What do I do? Am I keeping him till he's 18? And I was like, you should probably go buy him a bed. Because at that point, I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I literally was hanging on by a thread. And I didn't have CPS in my life, but I knew it was coming.
Right, matter of time.
It was just a matter of time. I knew that the next, turnaround was, so I just had Mary Beth. And like my brother Jeremy would take Mary Beth off and I would drop him off in the middle of winter with her off in the middle of winter with no shoes. And they would just look at me. And they wish that they could have taken her too, but it just wasn't in the cards, And it wasn't a matter of months. Like I remember Halloween, my brother was in the hospital and I had Mary Beth and I was able to pick up Skylar. And I remember trick-or-treating with my kids, and I dipped back in the car to get high, and I turned around, and my kids didn't know where I was, and they were crying. And that's one of them stories that just kind of haunts you. And I knew then, like, I had already known I was a mess, but, like, I was a mess. I couldn't even maintain having my son for a couple days. So it was around Christmas that I had left Mary Beth for a couple days with a friend of mine, and the cops showed up, and I was scrambling to try to find somebody to come get her because the cops were like, hey, if you're not here, we're going to have to take her somewhere else, and I couldn't come there. I was a mess. I don't even know. I was straight a mess. So they went to Brandon's dad's. And from there, CPS got involved, and we had this big family meeting. And, like, this big family meeting consisted of literally everybody in my life that was there for them kids. And it was a room full of people that mattered. And it was amazing. And I think about it now, and, like, I had warrants, and my brother's a cop, and he's like, hey, I'm not here to arrest you, but, like, I just want you to know I could. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I just want to be here for my kids, even though I couldn't be there for myself. And I had so many people in that room, they had to bring in chairs. And they were like, what can we do for these kids? And, Jane and Steve were there who took Mary Beth. And, Skylar ended up with my brother. And my mom had Jaden and Skylar, or Jaden. And I didn't see, I didn't see at the time. what was happening was a great thing, but like I look back now and I think, wow,
What a blessing.
what a blessing, right? Because now I've worked with people who don't have anybody, and they lose their kids because they literally don't have anybody, you know. So at that time, I could have went to treatment. So this was in December. Mary Beth turned 4, December 6th. This was shortly after that, so this was around Christmas time. I remember her going with Jane and Steve, and I could have went to treatment in May, and I was all ready to set to go to treatment. This was May 2011.
Okay.
Okay. I was ready to go to treatment. I went and stayed at a friend of mine's hotel room, and they were going to pick me up there the next day. It was actually Matt's hotel room, because he was like, hey, you're going to treatment, right? At the time, I knew I was pregnant.
Just sit that in it.
Well, that's,
I knew there was a part missing in this cycle.
oh yeah, I was pregnant. But I didn't want to admit I was pregnant. I didn't want anybody to know I was pregnant. And I just was ignoring the fact that I had a baby growing inside of me. Matt was like, you should probably go to treatment. I was like, yeah, I'm going. I got to get my kids back. And so this whole revolving thing happened where I was like, okay, I got treatment set up. I was going to go to Waverly. It was all set up May. The day before, the car was there to pick me up. I left and I got high and I couldn't go to treatment. And I had convinced myself, my addict had convinced myself that I was a no good person and that my kids didn't deserve me and my kids deserve better and that that I had so many CPS cases already that 3 strikes you're out. And literally I'd convinced myself that I was just not worth it and that my kids were better off without me.
Isn't that crazy how that addict just pounces?
I can't even, because now I look at myself today and I'm like, no, I'm a great mom, you know? But then I had convinced myself, so I didn't go to treatment. So May, I was supposed to go to treatment, June 25th. At that time, CPS was like, we know you're a good mom, but at this point, because you're an addict, we have to sign over custody. And they made me do a permanent transfer of custody of my 3 oldest. Thank God they didn't take my rights. Literally by the grace of God, I see it happen all the time. Benton County was like, no, we are going to let you keep your rights, but we are going to take your kids and transfer them. And I was able to transfer them to the 3 people that already had them. And this was June 25th, 2011. July 11th, 2011. I had finally stayed clean for like a week after this whole depression of, I lost my kids. Oh my God, you're pregnant. Mind you. Oh my God, you're pregnant. I was able to stay clean for like a week just to go to the doctor because I didn't went to the doctor yet. I had no idea. I had no idea how far along I was. I had no idea what I was carrying. I was really big though. And I'm like, oh my God, am I like 6 months along? Holy shit, I should probably go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor. Matt went with me. I had an ultrasound that day, and I found out I was pregnant with twin boys.
Boom!
I was like,
Twins.
wow! Like, really? I'm like, really, God? Honestly, I literally stood up to this guy, and I was like, really? 2? Like, I cannot do this. I am not a good mom. I lost my other 3. Why 2?
Boy, does God know what he's doing, huh?
God, he really does, because literally they saved my life. So July 11, 2011, I found out I was pregnant with twin boys. July 19th, 2011, went to treatment. Not because I wanted to stay clean, because my shame and my guilt and everything that was festering inside of me wasn't going to allow me to stay clean for me. But for these babies that were inside of me, I was going to do it. And I did. I went to treatment. I went to Journey Home. But I didn't want to stay clean. There was this piece of me that was like, you have too much shame and guilt inside of you to be better. And you are not a good mom. So that's still that addict in me. That's like that piece of me was like, no.
Cunning, baffling.
Yes. Like, you are not a good person. You're not a good, and literally that's what I had convinced myself. But I wanted to give these babies a better life. And their dad's family was so supportive. And he was such a great man that I thought, okay, well, if I can't take care of them, they can. you know. And that's literally what I convinced in my head. So I went to treatment. I went through Journey Home, and Journey Home was like, I'm so sorry, Journey Home's not here anymore, but literally they've saved my life so many times. Carol was like, you can take care of these babies. And so she talked to a CPS worker and was able to get me them babies in Journey Home when at the time all my cards were stacked against me to even bring them home with me. But I was able to because I was going to Journey Home. So on November 5th, they were born. I stayed there until January. I got my own place. Again, not dealing with any of this. Like, they were like, you need to go to therapy. I'm like, no, you need to figure it out yourself. Like, still not ready. I got this. I'm still not dealing with my mental health. Not dealing with my shame and guilt.
So that black hole still
Yeah,
there.
that black hill's still here. But I was like, okay, well, maybe I have a little bit of depression and anxiety. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm a little ADHD because I thought, well, if they would just prescribe me, then I'd be okay, right? So then I convinced myself that for a little while. That was just stupid because I'm not. I just really have anxiety. But I thought, well, if they'll prescribe me Adderall, cool, right? Then I can just, on the down low, get high. And it wouldn't matter, right? Because I'm prescribed it. Because isn't that how that works?
Yeah. It's like
right?
a twofer.
Yes, like a twofer. Yes.
The addict is so
yes,
crazy.
it's so, and it just is so thick up there at that time in my life. So I relapsed in February, knowing that somebody was going to catch up with me, knowing that I was going to lose these boys, not acknowledging it. So I used February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 7 months, while skipping counties. So that they would, because I had a CPS case. I had an open CPS case with a male social worker. So they couldn't come in the bathroom with me. Not a good idea. But I was able to use somebody else's pee. And so I had used, and I was skipping counties. And so by the time they would catch up with me, then I would either stay, I already knew they were going to come. And so I would stay clean and give them clean pee for 3 days, you know. And then I would skip counties again. So in the meantime, that's what I did. And one day I woke up and I was looking at, and I had been up for 4 or 5 days, and Jaden had ran away from my mom's, and he was with me, and I had brought him to a dope man's house, and I woke up to this kid that I didn't even know, who was my son, who just wanted a relationship with his mom, who had been through so much already that it didn't even matter. And these little boys, and tears. It was just like a fountain. And Jaden's like, it's going to be okay, Mom. It's going to be okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. But that he was so used to that. He was so used to picking or helping Mom pick up pieces that that's, you know.
That was his role.
He was like 14.
I got this.
He's like, I got this. We're going to be okay. Look at these beautiful little boys. And these are my brothers. And, oh, my God, Mom, you have more kids. And tears. And I picked up the phone and I was like, I need help. For the first time in my life, I was 36 years old. I picked up the phone and was like, I need help. I need to go to treatment. I need something better. You need to come get these kids. And I was calling my CPS case, my CPS worker.
So you weren't dodging, you were
Finally, it was like my
Surrender.
spiritual awakening. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this. I don't even care. Somebody come help me. And my friend Sam, who I was staying with, she was like, I'll take the boys until Matt's mom, the beautiful, amazing soul she is, we didn't even know if they were Matt's, but she never blinked an eye when I needed help with them kids. I was in the hospital giving birth. She came. She was there. She's just a saint. And I'm so grateful to have the people that I've had in my life, you know, and I never hid it that maybe they weren't his, but she was like, there's a possibility, so I'm there. And his sister, who never wanted kids, was like, here, I'll help. And now she has a beautiful baby girl. And but she had no idea, and she never wanted any kids. And it was cool that she was always there, no matter what, you know, and Grandpa Todd, and that side of the family was always there, you know. Anyway, so my friend Sam took him for like a week until Anita could get up to get him. And I went and did a Rule 25, and I was just brutally honest. Like,
Ooh.
this is my situation. This is what I need. And they're like, okay. And I had so long to get into treatment, and so I went balls to the walls.
One last hurrah.
One last hurrah, but this is what's so weird about my hurrah is that the despair and the feelings and the anger and the hopelessness and that inside of you, I never will forget. I remember I was supposed to be in treatment. To my clean date is September 12th, 2012. I was supposed, thank you.
Congratulations.
I was supposed to be in treatment on September 11th. No, I was supposed to be in treatment on September 10th.
I know the story. Okay, do it. One more time. One more time.
Okay, just one more time. And I really just was like, I just got to get high one more time. Just one more time.
God, the
And
addict just.
But my higher power was like, no, you were not going to get high because I couldn't hit.
Mhm.
And I was like a mess. It was really fucking bad. It was really bad. But I remember that feeling of despair and anger. And I was like, go ahead. I don't even care. So I called treatment and I was like, I'll come tomorrow. And they're like, okay, well, tomorrow is your last day. And I kept telling people I'm going to treatment, I'm going to treatment. Well, then they're like, haha, you're not going to treatment, you know? So I went to bed because I was so mad because I couldn't. My higher power was like, you don't need that last high. You don't need this. You're going to get through this. Go to treatment. That I went to bed. And the next morning I woke up. I'm like, let's go. My bags are packed. We need to go. We need to go now. And I did. I literally had a duffel bag and a blanket that I'd stolen. I still have.
This is coming with me.
That I bring camping. So you've ever seen this quilt? Literally, I was like, no, this blanket is coming with me. Because I didn't have anything. I didn't have. And I felt like it needed to be mine. I don't know why. And it still is mine. But I had a duffel bag. I didn't have any cigarettes. I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to treatment. And so that was September 11th. And I'm pretty sure I smoked some weed or popped some pills on the way there. So, of course, that's not my clean day. So the next day is September 12th, 2012. And literally my life has been different since. So different in so many ways that I'm so grateful. Like that despair, that feeling, that hopelessness, that anger, that shame and guilt, all of them things inside of me are what fueled my recovery for a long time. Was like, you don't want to feel this way ever again. Like, you don't need or want to feel the way you were feeling ever again. And so I was able to go to family drug court, and my CPS worker was like 30. She'd been a CPS worker for like 35 years, and there was nothing getting past her. Nothing. Okay. To the point where I finally got my kids back after 30 days, which was really cool because I was like, hey, I'll be in this family drug court. And because of that, I was able to like get them back faster, but then I had stricter rules. It was right around Christmas. It was like, I think it was Halloween that I got them back, and I couldn't go trick or treating with them, which was fine. They weren't even a year old. They were going to be a year old on November 5th, but like I couldn't just go wherever I wanted. If I wanted to go somewhere with them, I had to call her and get it pre-approved. So like I couldn't take them to a meeting. She literally was like, "I'm going to ground you."
She knows you.
I'm going to get you to find a routine and find some structure and find what you need for these kids because this is what you need.
Bless her heart.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because I built this routine with them. This bedtime, this dinner, this breakfast, this lunch, I built that. And because my CPS worker knew exactly what I needed at the time I needed it, even though I was like, well, what do you mean I can't go there for Thanksgiving? Well, you can go there for an hour. To my mom's for an hour. I'm like, okay, fine. But I enjoyed it. I utilized my hour that I could have, and I built this foundation with my kids. I didn't get to see the other kids. And that's okay. Like, now I look back and I'm like, I understand why my higher power was giving me the gifts. And I wasn't reaching out to them who have my kids because I did not want to go in and out of their lives one more time.
Right.
They couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. The people who had him couldn't handle the trauma of it again. And so I just left it alone. And I was like grateful that I had these little boys that I could build this foundation with. And literally that's what I did. I went to treatment. I went to have journey home, I went to Domus. I went to meetings. I built a foundation. I went to meetings. I built a foundation. I went to meetings.
I'm picking up something here.
Right? Because that's what I needed. Because I needed that foundation of people in my life that were like, you can do this. And I'm going to take this black hole out of you. And I wanted to learn how to love myself so I could teach my kids how to love themselves. And I wanted to be a better person. And I knew deep down I could be a better mom. I had good roots. I had a good upbringing. And I knew that eventually I could be a better mom. I didn't know how, but I listened to everybody and everybody that would give me advice about being a better mom, including my parenting coach, my elders, my predecessors, anybody that would give me advice, I listened. My therapist, I finally went to therapy, dealt with all this shame and guilt. And I just kept moving forward. I was like, I'm going to do this. And there's nobody that's going to tell me any differently. And literally I did. My first year was rough. It always is. But I was in family drug court, so I couldn't go anywhere without calling somebody and being like, hey, okay, here we go. There's my whereabouts sign. And so that was a gift to me, Yes. So a little after a year clean, I graduated that program.